Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fin Factor. I'm Paul.
And I'm Aaron.
This is episode number 177. Folks, for the podcast, the reason I'm laughing is because we already have comments in here. And I'll just start reading some of these. Well, the one that I'm laughing about here is Peter St. John saying, "Hey, super producer Jason, have you ever been the one holding up the start of the show? Because we started about 8 minutes late." And he replies, "Only when they want a graphic last minute, which is what tied me up just now. We're going live now. Do not ask me to screenshot a tweet 1 minute before from going live. I'll lose my mind." And actually, that is fairly accurate. He does lose his mind, regardless of when you ask for it. When you ask him to get a tweet in there, he does not like tweets. There's a very famous quote. We can't quote it from Super Producer Jason, but he is very unhappy with tweets. Going back to Peter St. John, though, evening boys, Kellen Foster with a "Let's go, baby." Yes, indeed, Kellen, let's go. And then we've got Peter St. John making the observation that Coach Quinn's getting the big bucks, but man, I kind of feel bad for him. Not exactly setting his coaching career on fire as he would want. Yeah, but you know what? He knew exactly what he was getting into, Aaron, right? I mean, he knew.
Yeah, and he's still coaching in the NHL, so I don't think he minds so much. And NHL coaches kind of have that buffer. If they do get fired, they still get paid for the rest of their contract. So I think he's doing just fine. Yeah, I'm sure he's frustrated, but yeah, he's all right.
I think anybody having anything to do with San Jose, including fans, are a little bit frustrated right now, and rightfully so. But you know what? Before we get to, well, okay, the folks that are looking for the tank card for Bedard train, let's choo-choo, baby. However, we're going to give folks some time to get in here. In fact, why don't you guys help us out, get some more folks in here? If you can hit us with that retweet, hit us with that share. We certainly would appreciate that, and get some more people in here chatting with us today. We got a few things that might be a little bit interesting here for you guys. So there's that. But while you guys are doing that, I'm just going to kill just a little bit of time talking about something that's not Sharks related, talking about something that actually made me happy in the world of hockey. Not this weekend, but the weekend prior. The 10UA Cougars, Cupertino Cougars, became NorCal champions. The reason I bring that up is because my son played for that team. They had some really killer, crazy, amazing games going on. Everything was really tight. Big stick taps to the Sharks 10U 1 and 3 teams, and to Capital Thunder, who was quite the opponent. They were very, very good. So I just want to call those teams out for the 10U division. Guys did a really great job, but again, congratulations to the Cupertino Cougars. Did a great job, NorCal champs. So there's that. Now, Aaron, back to Sharks. Yeah, Nicholas Egan throwing out the little party toot horn thingies, whatever those are. What are those things called, man? What is that?
A party horn? I don't know.
Party horn? The thing you blow in and it goes like a kazoo?
Like at New Year's, you blow a little thing.
That thing.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. Okay, so thank you, Nicholas Egan. Appreciate you for throwing those in there. So, Aaron, again, let's take a look at some of the past games here, and then we'll kind of move on into the more interesting stuff, if you will, because we kind of know how the games went already.
We just stunk.
We just stunk, right? so we know how they went, obviously, because we saw them, and of course, because we're talking about the Sharks, and we kind of know how these games have been going recently. So, in Vancouver, a 7-2 loss. Now, remember, Aaron, last week when we were doing the upcoming games, at the end of the episode, I had said, well, Vancouver, they're a pretty solid team, right? And you said, no, they're absolutely not a solid team. 7-2. I mean, how bad are the Sharks if a not so solid team is destroying them 7-2?
I think the way they're playing that night, Columbus could have put up 7 on the Sharks. It's pretty bad. And Columbus, for those that don't know, is the next worst team than the Sharks, because the Sharks are now in dead last.
Yes, but they are. By the way, Cullen Foster saying the kazoo sounding thing. He says Vuvuzela. I think that was back in the World Cup. What was that?
Wow. Good knowledge there. That's impressive.
Thank you. Hey, sometimes soccer things.
Yeah.
For me too. Yeah. Who knows?
I'm surprised.
Ben and Gunsry says officially leading the race for best chance getting Bedard. Woohoo! Absolutely. And we'll be bringing that up later on in the episode. So Ben, stick around, as I'm sure that you will. But Aaron, you had made a note here about the Vancouver game that Reimer looked pretty off his game. I've got maybe a question for afterwards, but why don't you just go ahead and talk about Reimer not looking himself in that game?
I mean, we talk about soft goals and stuff and how we don't really categorize a lot of stuff as soft goals, but I feel like he gave up a fair amount of shots that I thought he normally would have stopped. He just looked very off. And goaltending is very much a mental game. You can ask Robin Leonard of the Golden Knights about this, but it's a very mentally tough position to play because you are on for 60 minutes. I mean, think about how many times, what's the most ice time like a defenseman would get? It's closer to 30 minutes. That's half the game. The goalies are on almost all the time. They don't get as many breaks. They don't get to hang out on the bench and rethink about that last shift. Like they just have to go to the next play. So mentally, it's a very draining position. And he looked very, very off. A lot of goals that and out of position. He didn't seem like his normal self. And obviously, he let in 7. I'm actually shocked they didn't pull him. Considering the Sharks were not playing back to back, I thought they would have pulled him and put in Kakin in, but they did not.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if there were maybe some, because remember last week the whole controversy was that James Reimer didn't want to wear the Pride jersey, right? And he was questioned, and he brought this thing up in the media, and he got some backlash. He says he didn't really pay attention to the things that are out there on social media and whatnot, but who knows? I'm kind of curious, and I'd like to hear your take on it. And folks in the chat, please feel free to give us your thoughts on this as well. Do you feel like maybe this game was kind of some lingering effects of kind of the backlash from Pride Night and what he had decided to kind of tell the world there?
Yeah, I think that's part of it, and either it's consciously or subconsciously. That's just weighing heavy on him. So it didn't. He really just. It was not the James Reimer that we normally see. Even though, yeah, the Sharks are losing, you never see him really get blown out, especially this much into a team that's not like it's not like the Boston Bruins who are leading the league, right? This is Vancouver, who I don't even think they're going to make playoffs. But I think, yeah, he's just going to be. There you go, Callan. As a goalie, what is the toughest position you've been in mentally, or your most off night to Aaron? I mean, for me, soccer is a little bit different because it's less active time versus hockey. You're not getting as many shots, but it is a very mentally tough thing because, man, just playing in college was crazy. Practice more so than the games, only because practice you're getting more shots, more volume of shots, and you're playing against your best players on your team. But it's tough to mentally. It's more of like the shaking off of the mistakes. That's the hard part. Because you get a goal scored on you, you're thinking about what you did wrong because it's usually a mistake and how you could do better the next time, but also shaking it off and being prepared and ready for the next shot and being confident in yourself that you're going to stop it. That's the part. Aaron is nails, Kellen, ice water. He's never flinched as a goalie. I've definitely been scored on many times, many times. It's funny, like, and I'm just going to go off on a tangent here since, the Sharks are terrible, but I didn't start playing goalie until 7th, 8th grade. And I was on a very bad soccer team. And that actually helped me because they were so bad that I got a lot of action, a lot of shots taken on me. I remember two funny stories here. One, the ball like going through my legs. It's just embarrassing when you can't close your legs in time. Basically 5-hole, like in hockey, but in soccer with the ball, it's much bigger. Going through my legs and then turning around to get it and kicking it into the goal. It's very embarrassing. 2, I was playing goalie for one of the first times, and in soccer, same with hockey, you never stay on your goal line. You're always off and cutting off angles. Well, I didn't know that. I was just starting off, and I'm watching the play on the other side of the field, and I'm watching and I'm walking side to side, and I walked right into the goalpost. Just boom, just hit my head. I was just like, oh my God. Like, and I look around, I'm like, oh, nobody saw that. I'm okay. All right, let's just keep playing. Like, just embarrassing. But anyway, fun little anecdotes there. But yeah, goaltending is a very mentally tough position, and it takes a lot out of you. So even subconsciously, if you have a lot on your mind or in the back of your mind, it's there and it's messing with you. So I think this absolutely played a role in it.
Yeah, I couldn't help but notice that I didn't get to read the whole thing, but there was another article put out just a few hours ago, actually. Sheng Ping and I think Corey Masisak both put out articles, if I'm not mistaken. And I thought it was maybe just old thing that kind of hashed up. No, it was like 3 hours ago from this show, the start of the show, and it was asking Reimer kind of some of the same similar questions. and he was responding to it. And I'm wondering if they brought this stuff up or if he was saying, I feel like I need to bring this back up again. I don't know if I was, understood properly or whatever. I don't know who initiated that like second conversation. But the fact that he had a second conversation, they had a second article come out about it, and it's over a week now, right? So
Yeah.
I really do feel like maybe there was some sort of lingering, like it was affecting his mind just a bit, and this 7-2 loss maybe is kind of a piece of that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm guessing that they asked us follow-up questions because it was a week later and because he played so poorly the other night. And they know it's a mentally tough position. That would be my guess of why they brought it up again.
Nicholas Egan going after your heart here. He says, to quote a great soccer show, goalies need to be a goldfish.
Yes.
I remember that sentiment you shared with me. I haven't seen Ted Lasso, but
jeez, come on,
no,
man.
No. I'm not gonna start it.
You would, as a person who doesn't like soccer, you would like the show.
Oh, okay. Is they making fun of it or what?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, good. Maybe I'll look into it then. Calgary, in Calgary, I think this was what was a Saturday game. I think the Vancouver game was.
It was an afternoon game. Remember?
Yeah, and so Calgary, they lose to Calgary 5-3 here. Now the main takeaway from this one is that Erik Karlsson picks up a pair of assists. He got one assist in the Vancouver game, but he picks up a pair here, extends his current point streak to 3 games. He's got 2 goals, 3 assists, and 5 points in that span. So 5 points in 3 games. We're going to be talking just a little bit later on. It's actually coming up pretty close here in terms of his pace and where he's going to end up. We had that as a roll call question, I think, last week. So, but before we get to that, I guess like for this, it's kind of just more of the same, right? The Sharks constantly making these little mistakes, these small mistakes, and it cost them the game, right?
Yep.
Anything to add regarding? Was there something specifically about this game?
The turnovers in their own zone, which come right back to haunt them and score. Like some of it's bad bounces, bad luck. Like I think it was the tying goal. The Sharks had just scored to go ahead. Just scored. And let me look at the timestamp. Actually, I have it up right here. It's 5:14. Martin Kaut scores to put the Sharks up 3-2. I gotta do the math. 15 seconds later, Calgary scores the tie because the puck gets dumped in. Kakinen goes to play it, tries to shoot it up the middle, kind of flicks it up. It hits Couture's skate. He can't control it. Bounces right to their guy, who passes it to another wide open guy for a one-timer and a goal. It's like, are you kidding? Like, it was such a bang play because it was just a mental breakdown once again. Just simple mistakes that end up with the puck ended up going into the Sharks' goal. So to me, I think again, like, you take out the outlier of these Vancouver 7-2 losses, blowouts, right? The Calgary game, it was 5-3. That was an empty netter. So it really was a 4-3 loss. You take away all those mental mistakes, and to me, these are fixable. The Sharks are going to be a much better team next year. And now I'm not saying they're going to win a cup. I'm not saying they're even going to get to playoffs, but they're not going to be rock bottom of the league if they can fix these things. Because they're scoring goals, they're getting leads, they just can't hold them. You change that, you get a better goaltender in there. I don't know what they're going to plan to do. To me, I think Greer is going to go out and get somebody if he can this summer. And you fix that part of it, and he's already rebuilt the blue line in terms of prospects and up and coming players that are ready to play starting next season. You start building out of the back and work your way forward. Right now, the Sharks are scoring decent enough, not enough for a playoff team, but decent enough to not be at the bottom. I think they have a lot to work with here, and it's not as dire as it seems. That's my opinion.
So not sure if Erik Karlsson is going to be a part of that next season or not. We'll have to see how the draft goes and if he gets moved at that point. Greer's got a lot on his plate to think about with that one. I know he's been listening to offers and that kind of thing. Obviously, nothing happened. Karlsson's still playing with the team. But honestly, for me, that's okay. For me, it's the best of both worlds, right? You get to see a superstar like Erik Karlsson doing what he does, having a career year. But the Sharks are also, again, in the hunt. They're in the hunt for that first overall, which again, it sucks rooting for it, but at the same time, this is what's best for the team right now. What's best for the team is to, if you're not going to make playoffs, even if the 16th team in, right? If you're not going to be that team, you really want to be as low down in the standings as you possibly can be. And so being able to watch Karlsson still make the game entertaining has kind of been the thing that's drawing me back. Like without watching this guy play, it's a train wreck. So having said that, we're going to jump into some stats here for Erik Karlsson, but you guys know what it means when he's getting points and whatnot. And we love doing this. So super producer Jason, go ahead.
Fire in the hole!
Fire in the hole! So Erik Karlsson hits the 750 point milestone. So far this season, 90 points. Okay, his previous best was 82, which I believe was in an 82 game season that he finished all 82 games, is what I'm saying. So he has done it before. He's stayed healthy the entire time. We'll get to that in a second. Of those 90 points, 68 were assists. His previous best was 66. Of those 90 points, 22 were goals. His previous best, 21. So he's having a career year in all categories here. Now, the other thing that I thought was interesting, and you brought this up last episode, I believe, he's got an 11.3, an absolutely absurd 11.3 shooting percentage. And that demolishes his previous best of 8.5, which was last season with the Sharks. So, I mean, he hasn't missed a game. Like he hasn't missed a single game yet.
There it is. There it is. You just jinxed it. Way to go. Way to go, Paul.
Yet. I'm saying he has. I'm not saying he won't. He may not make it to the end of the season, but he hasn't missed a game yet. And by this time in the season, he's already missed like 20 games, like traditionally for the Sharks, right? So for just the fact that he's been playing this entire time, hasn't missed a single game, now you can see what the point totals would actually be if he was catching that rhythm and going. And he's not even playing with a good team. And he's not even playing with good players anymore because we traded him, right? Timo Meier's off the team. So he's still getting it done. I think the last time that he played 82 games was in the 2015-2016 season for Ottawa. And he's so far, he's on pace, obviously, because he hasn't missed one. He's on pace to do 82 for the Sharks for the first time since joining them. Pretty amazing stuff for me. I don't know. The fact that he's eclipsed his previous bests in all three categories, well, 4 if you count the shooting percentage. Yeah, just amazing. Now, Nicholas Egan saying, "Don't tempt the hockey gods, Paul." I think that was because he's played 73 games out of the 82, and there's only 9 games left. But no, hey, man, facts are facts. I'm just saying he hasn't missed. That's it. So there's the stat pack. Aaron, did you want to say something else before we move on here?
He is the second leading scorer on the Sharks now that Timo's gone. Who's the first?
He's the second leading scorer.
Goal scorer. Who has more goals?
It's got to be Hurdle.
Nope. He has more than Hurdle.
Who?
Logan Couture. El Capitan.
Really?
That's why he's the alternate captain, because he doesn't have as many goals as Logan Couture.
Oh, okay. Fair
Couture
enough.
has 25. Karlsson has 22. Hurdle has 20. Want to take real quick one guess for the next?
Honestly, that's surprising. Don't you say no, Gregor. I know people got more than 4.
No.
Who?
Barabanov, who I would like to highlight is having a phenomenal season. He's 3 points away from hitting 50 points, which I think he will get there in the next 9 games.
Nice.
50 points from Barabanov is amazing. I mean, remember, this is the guy we got for Antti Suomela, who's no longer in the NHL, and we got a 50-point player out of it. That is a great trade.
Say what you will. I got nothing bad to say about Doug Wilson. Okay. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and close out the alternate captain, Jack Karlsson.
Shiver me timbers.
Ben and Gunsry with a great comment here. Imagine how far down the standings we would be without EK65. Oh, wait. That's where as low as you can get.
More
Points
like
we'd be lower. That's
we would have been there sooner. That's all.
So the takeaway here isn't it, as you guys are saying, don't jinx it, don't tempt the hockey gods. But there's still 9 games to go. The man is on pace for 101 points. Okay. If he gets a point per game from here on out, he's going to hit 99. And I'll be asking you guys a question later on. I think some of you kind of know the direction that the question will be going. We've asked something similar, but I'm going to give a little twist. But before we do that, there is a clip here from Captain Logan Couture, and he was saying, talking about how one of the things they really want for the season is for Erik Karlsson to hit 100 points. So we have this clip. I think we have the reporter asking the question even here. So why don't you go ahead and fire away?
Erik Karlsson, now the franchise leader in single season assists among defensemen, passing Brent Burns. He reaches 90 points. What's he meant to this group so far this year?
Tremendous. I really hope we can get 100. I think that would mean a lot to him. It would mean a lot to every guy in this room. He's had an incredible year. It's been coming to the rink fun to watch him play and be a part of his year that he's having. So that would be a highlight to finish the year.
So like just like I was saying for myself, just this is kind of one of the things that kind of keeps me coming back and to watch, the train wreck that is this season. And for the players, I think this is one of the reasons that they kind of helps get them up in the morning to come to the rink, is to kind of help them get there and kind of play with this greatness. I don't know. What's your take on this?
Absolutely. You're around the best defenseman, not just in the league, but in the world. This guy is doing things that a lot or almost nobody else can do. It makes you a better player. You see how many passes he does, how many dekes to the blue line, how many times he dances around that blue line. There's not a lot of players in the NHL that can do that. Even Cale Makar has some limits to what he can do compared to Karlsson. So it makes it fun to go to work and see greatness happen. You're going to practice and playing with this guy and learning from him. You're playing in these games that, sure, they're losing and not like they're meaningless, but they're still competitive and still fun because this guy just does amazing things. It is a lot of fun to be around. When I played at Sonoma State, there was this guy, Tony, who was our leading goal scorer. And I don't know if he led our league, but he was up there and he was amazing. And it just made everything so much more fun to go to both practice and to games, because you're also a fan. You want to see what they can do, and you get a front row seat at doing it. So absolutely, everyone's pulling for him. It's not like Karlsson's like a mean dude and for lack of better words, and very friendly and a good teammate. He's an alternate captain as well, so, and a leader in the room. So yeah, they're all pulling for him, and they want him to get to 100 points just to kind of stick it to the NHL and to the other guys of saying, hey, everyone said he was too old, and look at him at 32. He's going to be hopefully winning a Norris Trophy from a team from the bottom of the standings. It's amazing.
Yeah, the other thing is, Cale Makar he's an amazing player. Don't get me wrong, and he's probably one of, if not, I would say, let's just say he's one of the best offensively minded defensemen in the league. But he's also got guys like Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen. I mean, he's got a lot of really big name players that he's, superstars that he can play alongside. Karlsson doesn't have that luxury. Karlsson's biggest threat offensively just got shipped out. So for him to have the season that he's having, like as you said, playing from the bottom of the standings is really truly an amazing thing. Now, here's kind of one of the things I think is also interesting here, is that we are witnessing, I think, the best version of EK65. Like you say, he's 32 years old. But as I just went through his numbers, he's having a career year. He's never scored more goals. He's never had more assists. He's on pace to play as many games as you can. So he's showing everybody that I'm not the glass cannon that you all think that I am, right? Everything down to his shooting percentage. I mean, this is the best version of EK65 that not just we as San Jose Sharks fans, but that the league, I think, has ever seen. So we talk a little bit about, I think at the beginning of the show, we said, will Greer end up trading Karlsson at the draft? And I know there's been discussions with Edmonton, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think that any potential trade partners, not just Edmonton, but any of them, have any leverage anymore just because he's like, quote unquote, past his prime? Because I mean, if this is what he can do past his prime, do they think he's just going to fall off a cliff all of a sudden? I mean, what's your thoughts?
I don't know, maybe a little bit. I mean, finishing out and playing all full 82 games would be a big deal for him and for his trade value, obviously. The longevity and everything, kind of going back what I was saying earlier about mental, like not every position, it's not just goalies that have to have mental toughness here. He mentioned himself specifically a couple months ago about, the resurgence, like where did it come from? What happened? What's different this year versus the last 4 years as a Shark? Since COVID hit, he hasn't been able to go back to Sweden in the off season. So this was the first summer he got to go back in the off season. His kids grew up a little bit, so they're not babies anymore. They're little kids. So it made it a little bit more, less mentally tough because you're sleeping through the night and not worrying about your wife and anything else going on. So mentally he was in a much better space. He could finally focus on just himself, and it's a big deal when you can do that. And going back to his strength coach that he originally worked with in Sweden back in the day when before he was in the NHL, that helped him a lot. So I think, I'm not going to say he's going to play 82 games every season from the end of his contract, but I think at least 70 plus games. I think that's more reasonable. I think gone are the days of him playing 50 to 60 games, unless something terribly breaks down or he has some freak accident. But I think his value goes up. I think we might see a situation where someone gets bounced in the playoffs because they didn't have that outlet pass or that power play quarterback, and they're going to shoot for the moon and try and get Karlsson. It also depends on the cap next year and what that goes up to. Any other moving pieces of players getting shuffled around. I think the Sharks I think they're in a good spot. I think Greer's in a good spot because he doesn't have to trade Karlsson. There's nothing forcing him to do it. Sure, it would free up obviously a lot of cap space, but then for what? Like, what are the Sharks going after? They're not going after free agents. They're not going to be signing any big, huge name players yet. So they don't really need to have that much cap flexibility just yet. That I think kind of helps Greer get a little more value out of a trade because he's not forced to trade. So it would be more like, okay, if you really want this guy, you're going to have to really shoot for the moon here and give me what I want versus what you're only offering me. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think he's got more cards in his hand because of it.
Nicholas Egan, I want to go through some of these comments here. Nicholas Egan saying Karlsson hitting 100 and winning the Norris would probably be the only highlight from this season. Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree with you on that one. And then you've got one here saying from LM, I hate hearing when people say EK shouldn't get the Norris because he's on a bad team. The award didn't mention what kind of team they have to be on. That's a true statement. I honestly, I think when you're having a season like this without support, I think it should make it just that much more convincing that you're worthy of that trophy, right? I mean, the next comment LM has here, Makar has Rantanen and McKinnon, EK has Gregor and Lindblom.
Do you remember when McDavid first came in the league and was leading the league in scoring, and yet Edmonton wasn't even close to playoffs?
Right.
There was a huge debate on if he should win the Hart Trophy, which is the MVP of the league.
Right.
How could somebody who is leading the league, how could someone win the MVP if their team doesn't get into the playoffs? I feel like the same thing for Karlsson, not for the Norris, but for MVP talks, as people are talking, some people are like, oh, he should win Hart for that, like doing what he's doing. But if he were dragging the Sharks single-handedly into the playoffs, absolutely, I think he'd be up for the Hart. I also think that Quinn would be up for the Jack Adams if they were able to make playoffs with this bare bones, I feel like, of a roster going into the season. So, yeah, again, going back to, I think, what I said either last week or 2 weeks ago about the Norris, it should be split into two trophies. They should have the Norris Trophy for best defensive defenseman, which could be voted on by, let's say, the forwards or the players of the NHL. And then you have the Bobby Orr Trophy, which is the defenseman with the most points. Because for forwards, they have whoever has the most points is was it the Ted Lindsay Trophy? I'm blanking on the name of it. Anyway, there's a trophy for someone who just gets the most points, and then there's a trophy for MVP. Then there's a trophy for just goal scoring,
right? Which
I also think that's the Rocket Richard. Yeah. I think, which Jonathan Chichu won, back in the day. I think they should also add a Wayne Gretzky award for the most assists in the league. So you have one for the most assists, one for the most goals, one for the most points. There's nothing wrong with that, I don't think. But that's my own little rant. I'll get off my pedestal.
Sounds like you're starting to get into participation awards, but that's okay. Ben and Gunsery says, imagine we have this version of EK65 in the very first year we got him when we were in contention for the cup. If that was the case.
We did. He got hurt.
Yeah.
That was the problem. He got hurt in the St. Louis series. If he didn't get hurt in the St. Louis series, we beat St. Louis, and I'm pretty sure the Sharks go on and win a cup.
It is unfortunate.
That was a brutal series. St. Louis got away with a lot of stuff in that series. A lot of dirty stuff. That's what kind of made me mad, and I think that's what Greer's kind of changing this team into, is a team that would be able to battle through that adversity and dish out some stuff. Back then, the Sharks would be like, oh, you hurt me. I'll score on the power play to make it hurt you, versus I'm going to pummel you and beat you into the ice, you know? So I think he's remaking that team so that they're going to be, that whole culture is going to be like that St. Louis team where they're going to be tough.
Nicholas Egan coming up with facts right now. He says Art Ross is the most points. Thank you. I could not remember what the name of that trophy was.
There we go.
Ted Lindsay is best player as voted on by the players. That is also correct. What's the other one? The Lady Bing is most gentlemanly player. That's the one where you have the least amount of penalty minutes, but you're a high scoring forward. That kind of thing.
Ted Lindsay is the best player voted on by the players. Have one. That's usually a forward. That's usually not a defenseman. So you have one for defenseman, one for forward.
Absolutely. I think that'd be great. Kellen Foster also throwing down some facts. He says, so Benning and Karlsson and Paul was voting for offensive and defense, or the other way around, defensive and offensive. Fair enough. Okay. So we talked a little bit about, the players that Cale Makar has to work with. We talked about some of the guys that Erik Karlsson has to work with. One of those, jokingly, of course, was Noah Gregor. And I wanted to give just a brief update on Noah Gregor, just because I like to watch you squirm. 2-game assist streak. Good on you, buddy. Way to go, Noah Gregor. That puts him at 4 goals and 5 assists, 9 points on the season so far. Now, Aaron, there are 9 games left in the season. Just got done talking about Erik Karlsson and the pace that he's on. He's got 9 games to go where he can get 10 points. Right? And that would put him at 100 points. Noah Gregor has 9 points. So my roll call question to you guys is going to be, first of all, where are you watching us from? Right? Not your couch, but the city, please. And then will Noah Gregor get to 10 points before Erik Karlsson gets to 100? It's a fair, valid question because they're both 90% of the way there. Right?
I'll take Gregor on the over.
You don't take Gregor?
1 point in 10 games or 9 games.
He's got 9 points in all the games he's played so far. Plus, you're not counting the fact that he might get scratched.
That's fine. He's on a roll, man.
Just saying.
He's on a 2-game point streak. It's coming.
You know who else is on a point streak? Erik Karlsson, 3-game point streak, 5 points across that span. I'm just saying. Stay
on that pace.
Man's an animal.
On that pace, Eric.
SJ and LM says yes, Noah Gregor will get to 10 points before Karlsson. It sounds crazy to even ask that because it's only 1 point, but the pace at which they're doing this,
it'd be great.
Pace is just so much better.
If Karlsson just rips off a 4-point night, and then a 3-point night, and then a 2-point night, and then he's at 99 in 3 games, and then I'll be like, oh boy. And then what if they get a point on the same goal?
Then it won't be before. It'll be
push.
At the same time.
It's a push.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you think we could convince Windex to sponsor Gregor in the Bay Area like a radio commercial? Well played, Kellen. Nice job. Pie bet, Aaron. No, Aaron is still owed the outcome of the last bet before we start making new bets.
We'll make it whole once we get a set and studio built. We'll do
I can't virtually pie Aaron.
Yeah.
Well, maybe super producer Jason can figure that one out, but I don't know. Kellen says Orange County, and yes, Gregor can do it. I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm saying I don't think he will do it. Just remember, 2 games ago, he was at 7 out of 10. Come on now. I don't know, guys.
Happen.
I don't know.
It's going to happen. I have faith.
You have faith?
I have faith in Noah Gregor.
Maybe next week he'll get it, but
is he going to get it on a goal or an assist?
A goal or it better be a goal. If he's supposed to creep up to 10 goals, he's only got 4.
There you go. Nicholas, San Jose. Gregor scores a goal in front of 4,000 people this week at Mullet Arena.
You could have said 4,000 people in San Jose and it would have been just as accurate, but obviously they're playing away. Oh my God. Gregor will score a goal before EK hits 100. Harder to answer. Oh, okay. Will he score a goal? I say no.
That's hard.
I
That's a
say he
harder
does
one.
not score a goal. I think he will get an assist because he's gonna just touch a puck before Erik Karlsson gets an assist or
He
a
had a
goal.
goal the other night. It got called back because of offside.
So then he didn't have a goal, is what you mean to say.
Right.
Regardless, Andrew Agazzino, Aaron, this is a guy you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, he's been called up. He's got 3 games. He's got 3 points, and that's not 3 points in one game. He's gotten 1 point in each game. So even longer streak than Noah Gregor. I think
Wow.
it's a fantastic call up. Think about it. He's the leading scorer for the Barracuda, so it's kind of a reward for him. What's funny is these 3 points are a career high for him. He's never had more than 2, so he's got 3 in 3 games.
Career year.
He's played for Colorado, Pittsburgh, Anaheim, Ottawa, and now the Sharks. And combined, he's had 47 games. This is his career stats. 47 without the Sharks. 47 games going into the Shark season. He had 2 goals, 7 assists. So he's got 1 goal and 2 assists in 3 games. Either that shows how bad the Sharks are or how good Andrew Agazzano is. His goals are actually... Was it?
Agazzino.
Agazzino. Sorry. What did I say? Agazzano?
Agazzano.
Blah, 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 blah.
It's also Aho, not Aho.
What?
Sebastian.
Ah.
Oh, I can't lie, it was, a lot last, month, and...
Aho, not you always call him Aho.
I used to work with a guy. His name was Alex Ho, and he went by Aho. So it just rolls off the tongue better.
Oh yeah, it really does. Oh my God. Okay. Here's a question for you. And you guys in the chat, you go ahead, fire away too. Does Andrew Agazzino end up with more points or the same amount of points as Noah Gregor by the end of the season?
No.
He's 3 for 3.
No. No way.
Dude, I don't know. There's 9 games left. If he goes on this pace, he gets 12 total points. He'll absolutely blow Noah Gregor away.
Yeah, he's on this pace. He's going to do it. Come on.
It's 3 for 3, bud.
You're ridiculous.
Just saying. All right. Well, we'll see if anybody else throws any other comments in there. But while we're doing that, there's some interesting things going on here. The Sharks are bolstering up their armed forces. You heard me correctly, folks. We've got the captain, Couture, right? We have alternate captain Karlsson, and then we have Grand Admiral Henry Thrun. If you're not a Star Wars fan, you won't get that one. But he is a defenseman from Harvard, 6'2", 190 pounds. He's got a 2-year contract. They just signed this guy a couple days ago, I think is what it was. $1.825 million. It's a 900 something $1,000 cap hit. Dauber Prospects has him as a well-balanced defenseman. He's a good puck mover that can shoot the puck and play smart defensively. So by all accounts, sounds like a guy that we could certainly use in our system. He's got 33 points in 33 games in the NCAA. He was named Defensive Defenseman of the Year. Kind of feels like a puck-moving Vlasic perhaps in the making. So who knows? My question really is, is this a guy that we should be excited about? We've been excited about other players before, namely goaltenders, right? Zach Amon, for instance. We were all pumped about him. And some of the other prospects that we brought in, we thought, oh yeah, these guys could be really, really good. And then maybe it doesn't really pan out. Is this a guy that we should be getting our hopes up about, Aaron? Do you know?
He's not going to light the world on fire, but he's going to be a solid defenseman. I think this is a guy with potential pretty much to be in the kind of like, think of like Mario Ferraro. Like, he's not leading the team in scoring. That's not his role. His role is to be defensive guy, shut down, work hard. This is this kind of guy. But when he does have the puck on his stick, he's not stone hands either. He can move the puck and pass and get the exit pass to get out of the zone. So I think I'm excited to see what he can do. It's going to be very limited with these 9 games left. But maybe because he is waiver exempt, they could send him down to the Barracuda and help them out and make the playoffs once either they're close to getting to the playoffs if they need help sooner than later. Yeah, I think I'm excited just because we traded a 3rd round pick for this guy. So is he worth the 3rd round pick? I hope so. I think the Sharks have a good read on him because of Todd Marchment in the Anaheim system, and that's who originally had drafted him. So I'm confident that he will be a solid, maybe another Matt Benning. How about that? It's not bad.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. That would be amazing if he could live up to Matt Benning, you know?
I thought you'd like that.
Not bad. But yeah, we traded a 3rd for him. He was originally 101st overall in the 4th round, a pick by the Anaheim Ducks. And he had come out saying that he has no intention of playing for the Ducks. So this is, kind of interesting. I wonder why he decided he didn't want to play for the Ducks, but he wants to play for the Sharks.
Because the Ducks since they had drafted him, drafted a bunch of defensemen ahead of him that leaped over him on basically his path to NHL got blocked because they drafted so many other players that are better than him. Not to say he's not good, but a different type of player, and it got clogged up, which happens a lot in organizations. So he decided what would be best for him is to not sign with the Ducks because he would become a free agent or unrestricted free agent. He could sign anywhere he wants this summer. So the Sharks knew that somehow and then traded to get his rights, and then were able to sign him to play. So he had a much forward path to getting to the NHL playing for the Sharks. Now, again, we've talked about this before, right? There's no loyalty to teams. There's no loyalty to who drafted you or anything, really. It's you want to play in the NHL, you play for any team. Even the Sharks at the bottom of the league, that means more ice time for you. That's exactly why Nico Sturm wanted to come to the Sharks, because he knew he was going to get 3rd line minutes versus 4th line minutes on another team. There's potential and ice time, which is what you want to forward your career. So there you go.
Which is kind of interesting because didn't the Sharks just go and grab a whole bunch of defensive prospects?
Yeah, but he's NHL ready probably by next season, fighting for a starting role.
Okay, so you put him ahead of Mukmadulin and Ahoychuk.
Yeah, I could see them staying another year in the AHL next year.
I guess that must have been a discussion that they had then because, again, you take a look. That was one of the things that kind of impressed me with Greer for this season so far was after the trade deadline, what they had done was they kind of bolstered up that defensive prospect pool. And, hopefully the idea is you're going to get at least one or maybe a couple of these really high-end forwards. Obviously, with your first round pick, you're going to get somebody who's amazing. And then hopefully, you either make some trades, get like a late round first or a second. You're going to be drafting some guys that are a little bit more forward heavy. This draft would be. So you'll be drafting some guys that are still, pretty good coming in that later first or maybe in the second sometime there. So if you could pull in some forwards from the draft, but you've got some good defensive prospects from the trades that you've made, really all you're doing, as you had said earlier, find a young goalie that you can, kind of groom in a couple of years. You can trust to have him take over the net. So I think they're doing a really good job, at least in theory, with the initial bones of a rebuild here. So if Thrun is part of this of the Sharks' future, that'd be a really amazing pickup there. So he signed a 2-year entry level contract, but one of those years is this year. Yes.
So he really signed a 1-year contract for next year. He'll be it's a 10-2C, whatever that is, kind of an RFA in a way. He's not accrued enough professional seasons required for Group 2 RFA status. They're ineligible for an offer sheet, so they can't give him an offer sheet after next season. Maybe it'll change. I don't know what the number of games are. I'm not that nitty gritty into the details here, but regardless, he basically has next season to prove that he's an NHL player and fight for a position for beyond next season. Fight for that next contract. So that gave him, the Sharks are giving him basically a springboard to show that he is an NHL player and he can either sign with the Sharks or somewhere else.
Well, he's going to get the opportunity to show everybody what he can do at the NHL level, and that will be starting either tomorrow or on Thursday. Because apparently, according to San Jose Hockey Now, the great Sheng Peng says that Thrun will make his debut sometime this week. So we got upcoming games here. The ones we're talking about, there's Tuesday, versus Winnipeg, Thursday versus the Vegas Golden Knights. One of those two games, perhaps both, Thrun's going to get the call, and he's going to be able to kind of lace him up for the first time in the NHL.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's fun to see these the NCAA players. They finish their seasons because the Frozen Four, or whatever the tournament is, the NCAA tournament is finishing up, so their seasons are done, and they sign with their respective teams and play a little bit of NHL action. And it's always funny because they're coming straight from college, so they're going to the pros, and they're on par, like they can play, they're there. But then when they play in a full season the next year, they've never played more than 50 games in a year, and they're going to 82 games. That's why you see a lot of these guys kind of falter into their next year. So it'll be a tough, long road for those guys. But it's fun to see when they come out of the NCAA tournament, they're at the top of their game, they're in shape, they're ready to go, and they're excited. And everyone coming into the NHL is very, excited for the first couple of games. Your adrenaline is just going. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch.
Colin in the comments here saying, I give Greer credit for stacking the defensive prospect pool before the seasons. It wasn't looking too great. That's exactly what we were just talking about. Absolutely, Colin. And again, doing things in the right order. You make the trades to get defensive prospects, and you're going to make the picks for your offensive prospects. And then again, all you really need to do is find some goaltending prospect that'll actually stick. We've kind of gone through quite a few of them, and one disappointment after another. Even Kaapo Kähkönen, I was kind of higher hopes for him. I mean, even we brought in Aiden Hill, I had really high hopes for him as well, but just doesn't seem to be panning out with those guys. So hopefully this staff here will be able to get a good eye on a good goalie prospect and kind of solidify us for years to come. Also, Nicholas Egan here saying Mukmadulin will probably need some time on North American ice to get used to the size next season. Well, he is playing with the Barracuda right now. Is that right, Aaron?
Yeah, but he's only going to get how many games are left? A dozen games or so, and then maybe
depends if they make playoffs.
Right, maybe playoffs. If not, then yeah, I think he needs more seasoning. And from what Greer's done, he's kept all of those prospects for the most part down there the entire season to really groom them and get them hungry and excited and hone in on their game so that when they do come to the NHL, they are more than ready versus like forcing them into the lineup because you need somebody. So it's a very different philosophy, and one that I think will be better for the Sharks in the long term because these guys are going to be overcooked and ready for the NHL by the time they are ready. I don't think he's ready yet.
On the topic of goaltending, actually, Nick HBK 150 says, speaking of the Frozen Four, Denver was eliminated, so no repeat for Magnus Krona. That's another guy that we had some pretty high hopes for. Again, he won last season. He was in the Frozen Four and they won last season, but again, no, as Nick said, no repeat. So there you go.
Goalies are tough because if you have a very good team in front of you, is the goalie good? Is he the reason that you're there? Probably not, because your team is so good. And we're talking about college where these are all amateurs, right? Most these guys are going to class during the week, so they're not professional players. So it's a little bit different talent pool every night. But I'm not trying to knock Magnus Krona either, but he's not picking up the team and putting him on his back at the same time. So he's a guy that I don't think is going to be an NHL regular. He's not going to be a starting goalie. I would think kind of that backup role, if anything. But he does have the coolest name, so I'm excited to see him at some point.
Colin, echoing that sentiment, he says he read somewhere that all the goalies the Sharks have, including the prospects, are at best NHL backups. Yeah. Again, echoing kind of what you've just said there. So, but again, for Thrun, at least, Grand Admiral Thrun, he should be in there either on Tuesday or Thursday against Winnipeg or Vegas, respectively. But there's also another upcoming game that week, or this coming week, Saturday in Arizona. As you said, there's all 4,000 fans at the Mullet Arena. Who were you talking about with the 4,000 fans?
No, it was one of the comments in here.
Okay.
I'm excited. I'm not going to do it this season, but maybe next season or the season after that, especially if we get Connor Bedard on the Sharks. Fly out to Arizona and go to a game at Mullet Arena because it would be awesome to be in a 4,000 arena with all the NHL players. So especially a Sharks game, I think it would be fantastic. You want to go? Should we do a show from there?
So I do want to go. I've already talked to my wife about this. I have a bit of a bucket list that I'm not going to get to anytime soon, but I would like to visit every NHL arena. And I I think I have to prioritize this one because they may not be around very long. So,
Right. Well, they do have a 4-year lease, I think, there, which is absurd. Maybe
yeah, I
5
meant just
years.
the team. The team might not be around very
Right.
long.
I know. Yeah, they might get moved. But we'll see.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, those are the games for this week: Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And then, of course, we'll be back on Monday.
Correct.
So, talking about these games and talking about all the points we didn't get that we don't want. So it's okay. Aaron, let's take a look at the standings here real quick. There are actually, just like we said before, 9 games left on the season. So these 3 upcoming for this week and then 6 more after that. And the Sharks are in a tie for dead last with Columbus.
Crazy.
Now, for the folks that were with us from the very beginning of the show, this is the reason that we started late. Super producer Jason had to take this screenshot, make it all beautiful, and then get it ready for you guys. So thank you, Super producer Jason. We appreciate you. The Columbus Blue Jackets, however, as you notice there, they have 1 game in hand. Now, even if they lose that game, that does nothing. And as far as standings wise for us, right? Normally, when you're talking about, if they win a game, it changes the standings. They go up and they increase and they can catch us, whatever. But we're talking from the bottom now. So we if they win a game, it just gets us farther away, which is good. So it can only be good things that they have more games to play. Even if they lose that extra game, that doesn't move them down below us. It just means that they stay put. So, Aaron,
yeah.
do you have high hopes here? Do you really think that we can do this? That we can stay at the bottom? We can get the best shot at getting Connor Bedard?
Well, if they keep playing Reimer the way he was playing, absolutely. I think that'll be a given, right? It's cool as Columbus, the Sharks, if they end up tied in points, they go by regulation wins. And right now the Sharks have 1 less than Columbus. So I think this next 2 weeks, a lot of Sharks fans are going to be the biggest Columbus Blue Jacket fans, as well as the Chicago Blackhawks and Anaheim Ducks, because they're pretty close as well. But that's it. Those bottom 4, there's a pretty big gap. There's 10 points between Anaheim and Montreal, which is going from 29 to 28. So it looks like it's a race between those 4 teams. And what's crazy is 2 of those are in the Pacific. So Connor Bedard has a 50% chance of being in the Pacific Division. Well, probably a little bit less than that, but
yeah,
we just stunk.
If he's not going to come here, I would hate for him to end up in the Pacific Division against us for a decade plus.
Right. I do not
terrible.
want to see him on Anaheim. I would prefer Chicago or Columbus over Anaheim.
Absolutely. Ben says Hawks and Ducks are in a hot streak.
Well,
L4
Columbus
and L5. Oh, losses? You mean hot streak of losses? Oh, man.
Yeah, right now they've
That's no
lost.
bueno.
Chicago's lost their last 5 games. Anaheim's lost their last 4. Sharks have lost their last 2. Columbus has lost their last 1.
Oh, that's another guy, actually. There you go. Kellen Foster, back on the topics of goaltenders. Goodrow, Benjamin Goodrow, I believe, didn't have a great World Juniors, but he plays really well for Sarnia. Yeah, I mean, again, another promising young goaltending prospect. Hopefully, one of these guys catches fire and becomes, the goalie of the future for the San Jose Sharks. But who knows, man? Just who knows? But gosh, wouldn't that be like the perfect storm and such a great introduction to being a GM for Mike Greer, to make all the right moves in like the first 2 years? You know what I mean? You trade for the defensive prospects that you need, you draft the offensive prospects that you need, and you hit on one of your goalies, right? And then, maybe it takes a year or 2, but then all of a sudden you've got a pretty solid roster again.
I mean, he signed as a GM 3 days before the draft. So 1 year later, you're going to tell Mike Greer at that draft a year ago that in 1 year you're going to be possibly drafting number 1 overall. Like, that's crazy. And getting a generational talent, possibly. And even if not, you're going to get a franchise player. You're getting a franchise player. It's almost guaranteed at this point because they're so low in the standings. I think mathematically they were guaranteed top 9 pick. Like, they cannot do worse than top 9 at this point based on the standings.
Oh, if they win all their games and all the guys around us lose all their games, we would still end up in that worst 7th from the bottom, and then therefore 9th would be okay. I got what you're saying.
Exactly. That's how bad it is.
Wow.
Or good it is. How good it is.
Great.
I'll stick with that.
It's great. It's great.
Yes.
Again, there's we always talk about Bedard, but there's other players there that are still incredible talents, right? Adam Fantilli,
Yeah.
Matt Vey, I think is the first name, Michkov, and then Leo Carlson's another big one too. So there's a lot of guys that are in that top 4, top 5 that are extremely good hockey players. And, you know, while Bedard would be amazing to get, you're not going to be sad with any of the other ones.
Exactly.
So, you know, for them to pick up either of those, any of those in that top 4, I think top 5, maybe even, I think Graham Slam might be able to speak a little bit more to that. But any of those guys are going to make you better offensively. And then again, it's a deep draft and it's an offensive draft. So, you know, again, those late round first, if you could pick one up, get your second, or maybe you pick up another second. Again, the Sharks have a fair amount of picks. So, and you know, if they do happen to trade Erik Karlsson, you're getting, you know, a little bit more from everybody else there as well. So, you know, who knows? There's a whole lot that could happen in this draft. And it'll be really interesting to see at this point next season what the Sharks are looking like. You know, if they're not looking too good in the standings, but they've got a lot of good young prospects, and maybe the Couture is doing fairly well, that could bode well for the future of the franchise. So I don't know, man. I'm looking forward to next season already, and it kind of sucks doing that, but like I really am. I'm looking forward to seeing how this kind of starts shaking out.
I'm looking forward to the draft. I love the draft. I love seeing like who the Sharks are going to do. And I'm really excited because this will be really Greer and his staff's first draft. They didn't really do anything last season. It was still the Wilson era doing the drafting. So I'm excited to see what they do because, I mean, they have a guy on payroll who is specifically for the first and second round. That's it. And they have 3 of those picks because they have 2 first rounders and the second round pick. Now, the first overall pick, or their first, I guess the Sharks' own first round pick, will be easier than the New Jersey pick that we got in the Timo Meier trade. I think it's gonna be a little bit tougher because that's gonna be a late first round pick. But then you're following that up with the Sharks drafting in the second round. They have their own pick, so that's gonna be a very high second round pick. It's gonna be 3 guys in the top. What is that? 35 players. You're gonna get 3 of those guys. That's pretty good. In a draft that's deep, right? That's pretty good.
That's amazing. And that's before, again, if they do trade Karlsson, that's before getting those picks. So, right. I mean, again, you can get a whole line worth of guys that could be ready, you know, either immediately or within a year or 2. And I mean, that can change the franchise. It really can change the franchise. I do want to address Kellen Foster here saying, as CUDA season ticket owners, who's your most likely to move from TechCU to SAP? He's asking about Robbins, Boards, if there's anybody else on Aaron. But I'm thinking Bordeleau. I think that, you know, they had him sign that contract and immediately burned that first year of that contract by letting him play. And he signed a 2-year, where really he's really going to have 1 year next season. He's just going to finish off the rest of this season, and it burns one of those 2 years. So I think they had pretty high hopes for Bordeleau, and I feel like after being an AHL All-Star and having a pretty solid season, if he comes out and has a rip roar in camp after going, you know, with training camp and maybe bulking up a little bit, getting a little bit more speed, working on a few parts of his game, and he impresses in training camp, I really think he can make a push for the roster next season.
Yeah, I think what the Sharks are doing, though, is they're showing him that nothing's a given. You got to work your tail off to get anywhere. So I think it's a good thing because nothing is handed to him. Nothing was handed to Eklund. He was consistently the best player on the Barracuda for a month before they even called him up. I think that's what they're looking for. Now, if the Barracuda can get into the playoffs and they do some damage and get a little bit, I don't expect them to win the Calder Cup, but if they can even get to the Calder Cup playoffs by winning, what is it, the AHL playoffs? I forget how it's all structured. It's all crazy, but just getting to that point and showing that they can lead the team and do well as a leader and being the best players on their team, that's going to go a long way going to it. Turn off the fax machine, Paul. Yeah, you kind of cut out there.
Full robot mode there.
Yeah,
I
your computer.
apologize. Again, technology, man. Is what it is. Hey, by the way, speaking of technology and me freezing up and remote things and everything else, hopefully for the start of next season, we'll be done with all this remote stuff. We're really working on it. We're really cranking it. I know we've been talking about it for a few seasons now, but you know, kind of COVID got in the way. So lots of things have changed since then. We've been trying to figure out how to get the studio back and working. And I think hopefully we've got it figured out. And that next season during this downtime, we'll have the opportunity to get the studio back and in place. And then, yes, like, why am I small now? What happened? What did I do?
Your quality just cut out. That's why.
I cut out again?
Your video quality just dropped. That's why.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, I guess that's the internet's way of saying wrap things up here. So maybe we'll have to do that. I've heard Bortolo still needs to work on his two-way game, especially his defense. I'm sure a lot of guys that are prospects offensively need to do that. Anybody who's talented offensively and is a prospect probably needs to work on their two-way game. Just ask Kevin LeBanc. So there you go. Aaron, anything else you want to say here, or should we just
Nicholas Egan, real quick? What bandwagon should the Sharks fan jump on for the playoffs? Canes for Byrne, Devils for Meyer, a different one. Definitely the Devils, because if the Devils get to the conference finals, their second round pick that they traded turns into a first round pick next season. So for me, I'm rooting for the Devils. I don't want them to win the cup. I'd rather see Carolina win the cup, but whatever. I want to see Burns win a cup. So personally, I would like to see Burns. For the Sharks organization, I would like to see New Jersey get there to the conference finals at least. I think that's the trade, right? Not win the conference finals, but get to the conference finals.
I feel like, I think it's to get to the conference finals. I could be wrong on that. It's been a while since
if they make the conference finals, the pick becomes the first. So yeah, is it possible? I gotta look because I didn't look at the way it's set up. But if it's New Jersey versus Carolina, then I'm rooting for Carolina. I like Carolina too. I like their team. They're fun. They're a team that does fun things that not a lot of NHL teams do, like when they celebrate after the ice and they do something different every time. Remember?
Yeah.
I like that stuff. I think the NHL needs more of that, and it kind of gives the personality of the players kind of come out a little bit more. So I like that stuff.
Very good. Okay. Well, I think the toaster is overheating because I keep skipping around over here. So, Aaron, if there's anything else that you want to bring up, fire away right now. There's the toaster.
That's it.
Get on with it.
Yes. Get on with it. We should have new get on with it clips too, by the way. That'll be fun.
Once we get more guests coming on,
Absolutely.
We'll have some more.
We just stunk.
All right, sounds good. Well, hey guys, again, we appreciate you stopping in. We appreciate the chat. It's always so much fun going through the questions and the comments here. Makes the show a whole lot of fun for us. So thank you for that. If you'd like to contribute and support the show, you can do that by the super chat function, or you can go to Venmo at the Fin Factor. Anything you put in the comment there, we can read out live on the show or on the next one. You can also go to thefinfactor.com and check out all of the merchandise that we have. There's a link that says support the show, because that is what you're doing. You're helping us keep the lights on and the virtual background virtual. So thank you for all that you guys contribute. I do appreciate that very much. We have lots of cool stuff in there: hats, shirts, sweatshirts, canteen, water bottle, whatever that thing is called, fanny packs as well, stickers, all that stuff. So we need to get some Fin Factor branded turtle wax so you can wax your head with it, bud.
We need to get some bumper stickers, like, what do you call it? Magnetic ones, and some other cool stuff. I think that'd be fun.
Says it's called a water bottle.
Yeah, it's just a water bottle.
All right, sounds good. So for super producer Jason, I'm Paul.
And I'm Aaron.
And we will see you guys
next week.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, check out our other content, especially interviews. You can interact with us directly through social media at The Fin Factor and on Instagram at Fin Factor. And don't forget to join our live streams on YouTube.
Visit our website at thefinfactor.com, where you'll find all of our episodes as videos or podcasts. You'll also find our exclusive merchandise to help